Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. What you want to talk about? Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. Kitchen talk, Lisa, Lowe, JT, and friends. Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. What you want to talk about? Kitchen talk, conversations that cook. Kitchen talk, Lisa, Lowe, JT, and friends.
Lisa, Lowe, JT, and friends. Y'all ready to cook up some conversation? Come on.
Kitchen talk.
Let's talk.
All right. Kitchen talk, CTC, conversations that cook. We are in the building, and it's only guys today. Lisa has been kicked out. JT may be running a little bit late. He's working, so we'll see if he could join the conversation. But we got a good one tonight on mental health issues within the Black community, but specifically Black men. So we got Mr. Stanson. I'm gonna have both of our esteemed gentlemen introduce themselves, but Mr. Stanson and Mr. Prince, and of course we got Jamal, who is our engineer in the back, taking care of business for us. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share it. But tonight's topic is definitely gonna be sizzling. So guys, before we get started, let's do that. Introduce yourselves. Let's start with Mr. Prince. And then we'll go to Mr. Stanson. Mr. Prince, give us a little background.
So my name is Cedric Prince. I am, full-time I work at the Department of Health in the Disability Office, Department of Disability. Been working in mental health for about 8 years. Started off at Appalachian Center as a behavioral tech, transitioned on to Capital Regional Behavioral Center, worked as a mental health specialist for a few years there. Crisis prevention instructor, and now I'm working with SG Mental Health Counseling Services, a new service counseling center here in Tallahassee, as a mental health wellness coach.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
Awesome.
Mr. Stancil, what you got?
All right, so my name is Douglas Khan Stancil, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm also a master certified addiction professional. I've been living in Tallahassee now for quite a long time, since about 1995 when I came to school. I thought I was going to leave Tallahassee and go back home to California, but like many of us do, I got pulled in, and then I got rooted, and so I ended up staying. So I've been working in behavioral health, mental health now for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. I currently work at Florida A&M University in the Office of Counseling Services, doing individual therapy, group therapy, presentations, a little bit of everything you can imagine under the sun. I have a wife and I have 2 beautiful children as well. I also worked at Appalachia in the past too. So I'm really excited about this conversation because it is very, very important for us to have these conversations. And for me, in my experience, anytime we intentionally pull Black men together and create a safe space to have these conversations, is absolutely magical every time. So I'm sure it's going to feel that way tonight, and the people will see.
I already feel the energy. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I feel the energy already. I mean, but let me go back to one thing, the Tallahassee bug. I thought you got me beat, Doc. You got me beat. I moved here in 2000.
Okay.
Hit by the bug and have not moved back.
Mm-mm. You know, as a young man, it was slow to me, especially coming from California. Right. So it was a struggle adjusting. But as I got older, you know, and started working and met my wife and had kids, it, you know, is really an ideal place to raise children. You know, it's peaceful, it's calm, it's you know, a lot of nature.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been fortunate on the education side to have some miraculous, beautiful teachers work with our kids.
So that's what got me too. I got caught up with the K through 12 system, and you know that's the beauty of Tallahassee. Is very much a family friendly town, right? So
right.
once you get bit by the bug, you are bit. So you are here.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into it, man. Mental health in the Black community. Now, you know, a lot of other shows have talked about this. But I think we need to go a little bit deeper. They may do one or two shows, and it's very casual, right? I've heard it on the Breakfast Club. I got to give a shout out to the Daily Show. You know, he pretty much puts that out there as much as he can in terms of content when it comes to mental health. But it's such a deep topic. You know, how do we deal with that? Like, what are some of the key things that we're seeing in terms of mental health in our community? I'm a get, and again, we want to be specific to let's start off broad, and then we're going to get into the men side of this. But in the Black community as a whole, how do you see mental health? How do you think we see mental health?
For me, I think a lot of times in the Black community, there's still some hesitancy surrounding mental health. And part of it is really a cultural dynamic amongst us as African Americans, and also too in Caribbean cultures where, you know, what's going on in the house, stay in the house.
Yes, sir.
And so you could be struggling with all kind of different issues and problems and really, really having a hard time. But the idea of going and speaking to somebody about it is really something that's you know, shunned upon and not done, especially if the person is outside of our race, because there's a lot of issues related to trust there. You know, historically, a lot of maltreatment that's going on in relationship to that. Some of it, you know, is also lack of cultural competency as far as working with our population. So a lot of us suffer in silence with these issues. And me being a mental health therapist on a college campus, what happens for us is the students have this buildup of these issues from birth to 18, right?
Yes.
And they make it to college and they're here and it's like, yes, I've arrived. And then all of these issues start coming to the surface.
Yes.
And so for us, it's, you know, we are able to start working with them on those issues. So it's, you know, and the issues run the gamut of issues you could imagine as far as mental health is concerned, from depression to, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, all types of anxiety, generalized anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks. You have issues, of course, too, with relationships. That's a huge deal, whether it be romantic, peer, or familial. So you know, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm happy you actually broke that down, because when we talk about mental health, people think, oh, because I'm crazy, right? Or I have an issue. But really, sometimes it's something as simple as, you know what, I'm going through a lot at work and I need somebody to talk to, or my wife and I, or my girlfriend and I, we're not vibing. So we need to have somebody to connect with to get us back on track. I gotta say a shout out to JT. Welcome. I told him that you might be working late. That's another,
man, you know,
working at
the work environment can really drive a person crazy sometimes, you know.
Right. So Mr. Prince, what do you think?
I think Dr. Stansel, he hit the nail on the head. Like culturally, the Black community, we're still healing from the trauma of the medical industry, period. We're not too far removed from the Tuskegee experiment. We know what it was that you did to our fathers, our grandfathers, and, you know, some of us, our great grandfathers. And we don't trust y'all. So that's why we're not going to get. We don't trust. So we're still healing from that trauma of going to healthcare professionals for help and healing and being used as guinea pigs. So that's issue in of itself. Culturally, we also have been taught. There's a narrative that's been written for African Americans that because of slavery, because of oppression, because of violence and racism, that African Americans are more resilient and more perseverant than any other race. So now there's been a narrative that's been written like it's an expectation that you're supposed to be able to matriculate through life and life not affect you. So you shouldn't need a therapist. You're not supposed to need therapist.
Right.
Because we're innately born with this ability to just not be stressed or oppressed or bothered by anything, and it's not true, and it goes deeper, not just the Black community, but especially with the Black male, we're taught even from grade school, big boys don't cry, so when we've been instilled with this narrative of what a Black man is supposed to embody and look like, you have to be strong. You have to be tough. You have to work twice as hard to get half as hard. At the point where you grow up and you no longer fit this narrative that has been written, there is a certain amount of shame that is associated with feeling inadequate. So I would rather suffer in silence than to have to articulate that I'm not okay. That life has hit me and I'm not okay. I need help. Or I would rather take my chances with whatever ailments are going on with my body because I don't trust healthcare professionals. I don't want y'all tending to my body. I don't want you tending to my mind. I'll take my chances with what I got.
Don't touch me at all.
I think that's one of the biggest issues with our community as it relates to mental health and receiving that treatment, that care that we need.
Man, Mr. Prince, you really brought it specific, and that's what I wanted to go to in next. Really mental health period when it comes to the Black community, even in diagnosis, right? So here's a young boy, he's getting diagnosed as bipolar or blank, can't sit down, can't do this. But other communities who do the same thing or have the same symptoms, they get it classified in a different way, and I
get a check for it.
Say it again, JT.
And they'll get a check for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So not even in just a hey, okay, we know we need help, but even in getting the help, you've already diagnosed the individual, the young man, the young Black man, in a negative light, right?
Or sometimes we don't get the diagnosis. We just get labeled as bad. We get labeled as problem children. When really it's ADHD or autism or something to that effect. So we don't get the care and the need and the special treatment and education that we need because we're just bad.
And coming from the background and everything that I came from, growing up in the country but being educated as well, we get labeled as stuff like that. But the old people just say you need your ass tore up.
Well, let's go into that, JT. I mean, that really was a deterrent. Would you guys agree or disagree in terms of helping or ensuring that your kids, did X, Y, and Z? Was spanking used as the way to keep them in check?
I mean, absolutely.
I'm sure it's definitely been utilized, and so I know for me when I'm working with my kids, it's different as a mental health therapist having kids.
Right.
I'm always working it. I think the key is really helping them to understand in a moment what they've done wrong, what the misbehavior was specifically, and then help them to understand how to avoid engaging in that behavior again in the future, and what thoughts were leading into what was going on in that moment, so that they could clearly understand it and understand what they did that was problematic.
Right.
So, you know, indeed, I think spankings do have their place. Just the add-on of the information and the understanding behind that is very important, because if kids are just whooped and then that's it, and everything goes back, the way it was, a lot of times they're not going to truly understand and learn from those experiences. And sometimes, I think for us, like we talked about as men, as we kind of are growing and developing, we may be going through something that is causing us to behave in a certain way that's not appropriate, not because we're bad, but because we don't have the words, we don't have the language to use to describe what's happening. So when I worked at Appalachia, I worked in what was termed, and these terms I think are quite problematic, classrooms that were for children who were emotionally handicapped or severely emotionally disturbed. But what I found working in those classrooms as a Black male, that almost 100% of the classroom was boys.
Right.
100% was, well, almost 100%, most cases was young Black boys.
Yep.
And in one of the classrooms I was in, I literally asked all the kids, was their father in the home? And only one had a father in the home, and his father was like a drug kingpin.
Oh, yeah.
And so the dad was there, but, his influence on his son was, in some ways, right? Because not everybody's bad, but in some ways was negative. And so if you have a young person growing up in an environment without, one parent, and there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems going on, they may be seeing and experiencing things, you're not going to come into school and sitting there, learning perfectly and reading, you're going to be like, wow, you got to get that out of you.
Right.
So, those classes were a problem, because when you graduate with a special degree. Yeah. And that special degree does not allow you to matriculate to college. So it was like a big deal. We was talking to them about, you need to work on getting out of these classrooms so you can get a normal high school degree, so that you have the option at least of going to, college or whatnot. But
right.
I know it got to be bad. You growing up in a household and Nino Brown is your daddy. That just cannot be good at all.
You make a good point, JT. Both of you, really. How do we break that cycle, right? And it may not be, the father's doing X, but even the father's not there, right? How do we really break that cycle? I missed that, Jamal, in terms of the question. Yes, I love it. Love it. Thank you, Evans. Yes. How do we break that cycle? As Black men, how do we break the cycle of really passing on this information to the next generation, right? When I think of spankings, I think you hit it right, Doc, when you're doing it without the right intent, right? And then the kid doesn't know what they really did wrong. You're just taking out your frustration on the student, on the kid. I like to say, I'm a teacher. You're taking it out on the kid, and the kid doesn't even know what they did wrong. And you're not giving them the lesson. So then they just do the same thing over and over again. And then they have kids, right? And now the kids are doing the same thing the daddy's doing. So I've been in Tallahassee long enough to see two generations.
So you mean to tell me my mama was wrong for whooping ass first and asking questions later?
Yes, she was. Yes.
Listen, I'm not gonna say wrong. I'm not gonna say wrong, because my mama might be watching and I wouldn't dare say.
You might still get that wrong.
What I will say is we as mentors, as parents, as teachers, we have to to help break that generation, that cycle. We have to we have to model good behavior. So it's very difficult to teach a child. Well, and as I already mentioned, you taught us in grade school, big boys don't cry. So we already not allowed to cry,
Right.
which is one of the main biological ways to express and release stress and anxiety. So we're already taught we can't cry. So growing up in a house where you're not able to express your emotions because being angry is disrespectful. Being frustrated is disrespectful in a tradition, in most traditional Black, or non-traditional Black households. So we have not taught them. Now, mind you, when I do something to upset my parents or or the teachers, they get to express themselves. Now I know you didn't, they get to raise their, they get to, but I can't do that. So you can't show me that when you're angry, this is what you do. You yell, you stomp, you storm off, you slam doors. But then as a child, when something makes me upset and I do it, I get booked. I can't express my emotions. I can't cry. I can't express when something has upset me. And again, yes, there's always a respectful way that you can go about, and that's what we have to do. We have to teach them, how to be able to express yourself, express your emotions, and also model that behavior because young children, they're very impressionable. And that they do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
It worked with me and my generation. But these kids something else.
It's a whole different breed now. It's a whole different breed.
You got to come with something better than that. So I feel like personally modeling good behavior and how to express emotions will help with that.
I love that you said that because I think it's important as Black men that we share our emotions, right? When you're upset, you got to let it out. And if you need help, you need to ask for help. I tell my students all the time, don't wait until it's too late, right? So by the time that you get the help, it's too late. There's very little I can do. So as Black men, we tend to wait till the problem is like way over our heads, right? Like I got it, but you really don't got it, right? So you need to get that help to say, hey, I need your support. And I don't know. I'm not afraid to do that. If I'm upset, I know that I need what I call my me time. Right? Like, okay, I gotta focus in, I gotta sit back, and I gotta get my emotions in check. I may need to talk to somebody to get me back in what I call homeostasis.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Balance.
I'm out of balance. So I need to get back into balance. And if I need to cry, I'm gonna have to cry it out because I gotta let that emotion out. If I don't, I'm gonna feel the pains physically. Right. So, but in our culture, as you stated, we're not taught to do that, and I really feel like it's been ingrained in our DNA from slavery.
Absolutely.
Like I was thinking when you were talking, Cedric, I was thinking of a couple of movies. The one that popped up was the Django. You see your mother getting raped, your father standing there, he can't do nothing. And if he says something, if he does anything, he's out of order and he could lose his life, which is what happened. So we're in that state as a Black man, and you're on the job, you're upset. You can't voice it because as soon as you say something, oh, he an angry Black man. Here he goes.
Right.
He can't control himself. We see it on the streets now with, for the past 2 summers, right? 3 summers, even more summers. If you talk to a police officer and say, X, oh, I'm afraid now, right? So, what do we do? What do you think we should be doing to kind of get past that?
Well, teaching our young Black boys emotional intelligence is really important, right? So just the basics of being able to understand and verbalize what emotion you're feeling in the moment, happy, sad, angry, frustrated, whatever the emotion is. And again, being able to verbalize it, also being able to identify those emotions in other people is also very important.
Yes.
If you know what's going on with other people, It helps you to navigate, those relationships and those encounters. And that emotional intelligence, like you just said, it informs you on what do you need to do about it. If you're sad, you can cry. If you're feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, you might need to take a break and have that, me time. You might have to just, listen to some music,
Right.
So, our emotions are important for us to be able to utilize to help us to know what to do. Not that we're going to only act on our emotions when we feel them, but they're informing us, and we have to know how to regulate them in healthy ways. Like the example you use with Django's father watching his mother being raped, or a black man at work and feeling like he can't say anything. A lot of times what happens is that develops a sense of powerlessness.
Yes.
So sometimes some men will carry that into the home, and that sense of powerlessness will come out in them being very domineering and trying to dominate and control members of the family, which can end up in, domestic violence.
Yes.
So, being able to identify that feeling of lack of power as it relates to that situation, being able to verbalize it. It may not always be your family that you're verbalizing that to, but what's important for us as Black men is learning how to talk to one another, right? Because we're sharing a similar experience. And because we share a similar experience, we can support each other in a certain way that no one else on this planet Earth can support us. And that becomes super, super valuable. Now, women have got this down. They'll talk to each other all day, all night, about all kind of stuff. I'm saying? They get it out and then they be straight, For us, we holding it all inside, and we just gritting our teeth and bearing it, like you said, don't ask for no help. And then at some point, it blows up. We blow up in some kind of way, shape, or form. So, inclusive in that too, of course, is actually going and talking to a therapist and working with, somebody who can help you through those things. And it really takes specific skills to cope with all the things that life is throwing at us.
Right.
It takes some very specific skills to work through that, because what we face and what we're charged with, especially when we're trying to break the cycle, is so real. Like I've told my kids before, like I feel like I'm trying to live like 3 people's lives in one life. All the stuff that I'm trying to do, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's just like moment my feet hit the floor in the morning to about this time, I'm going. Right. I'm going, and it can be very difficult. It can be very difficult. And I just want to clear something up real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm not a doctor.
Oh, I was
mental health counselor, so I can't misrepresent myself. Just want to make it clear.
Okay.
Well, I take it as an affirmation.
I started off calling
I'm
you
already
doctor.
setting you up.
I'm gonna keep calling you doctor. He's just speaking that into existence. That's what we do.
That's what it is.
We need it, because that was one of my things that I wanted to hit on next was, access. And we know we have problems. We know we need help, but we don't have enough people to provide that service for us, right? I was telling you guys earlier, I saw this clip where Taraji Henson, I think I got that right. Taraji P. Henson. Her son had some mental health issues, and she wanted to provide him with the best of service, and she had a hard time finding somebody. She made this statement that it was like a unicorn, finding a purple unicorn with a gold brim, gold horns. That's how hard it was to find somebody to help her who was culturally connected, right? Who understood what her son was actually going. Because there's people out there, but we want them to have that connection. What do you guys think?
I think that, I mean, it's another one of the major issues why we don't, as Black people, go out and seek help. Because if you're ever able to get to a point where you've talked to someone and you've broke through those barriers and those walls, and they're finally like, okay, maybe I will, but the only way I'm gonna go is if I talk to somebody who's Black.
Right.
And like, and that analogy that she gave, that purple unicorn with the go, there's not a lot of representation of Black, especially Black men, in this field.
Right.
So we most definitely need more. And I feel like if we help destigmatize and normalize counseling and therapy, because again, like Doc said earlier, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And, in the Black in the Black community, they're big on religion. Oh, God is our counselor. We don't need that. So when that has been ingrained and instilled in you from such a young age, who's going to grow up and want to be a counselor? Ain't nobody coming to me, because we don't subscribe to that. So yeah, so I'm not even. So we have to begin to normalize and destigmatize that. It's only for crazy people, or it's not for Black people, and that in of itself will provide us a way to get more African Americans, and especially African American males, in this field, so that you can have someone that can relate to your cultural experience, while you're trying to get these therapeutic services.
And I think I remember when I was
go ahead, JT.
Nah, because I believe, like, one time when I was little, I told my mama that I might need to talk to somebody, and she said, "Yeah, it's better go talk to God and just call it a day."
Listen, he's always on the line, JT.
Tell him what you want.
But listen, there's no reason why we can't intertwine the two, right?
Correct.
We should be able to go and talk to the pastor. But at the same time, we also need some extra resources. What is this? I know that's right.
Accidentally end up with
I love that. Listen, there's no reason that we can't intertwine the two. I do think that there's pastors who are out there who should consider getting a degree in counseling services, right? Getting your psychology or your psych degree, right? So that you can actually help the people in need. They're coming to you anyways. But instead of just arming yourself with the word of God, you can also have some other tools. He's giving you these other tools, but you have to access them, right? So that you can provide the best service possible to or hire somebody as a full-time mental health. I got to give my church, Bethel Baptist, a shout out, because they have a mental health facility, that Reverend Holmes put in place. But I still think that's not enough.
Absolutely.
I still think that is not enough. There's so much need, right? So I don't know. I think we know we need it, but do we go and get it? When you were saying that, Brother Prince, I was thinking of my days on campus. We were talking about this earlier in terms of knowing where the mental health facility house was at. Now, we all knew this was the place you needed to go to if you needed to talk to somebody, right? But there was a stigma in place that this was for only the folks who were dealing with you crazy or you had a real problem. But really, the service was available for all students. Sometimes I might just have an issue with, hey, I'm having a hard time connecting with my classmates, connecting with my professor or my roommate. I just need somebody to talk to. I'm going through a hard time. I think we put that stigma on it, like, don't go get that help. Don't go to that building. That's not for you.
That was that building, like when you were in high school and you see somebody walking out of there, like it was the ESC building or something like that.
Right.
But that dynamic, I can attest to that dynamic on the campus of Florida A&M University has changed.
Yes.
I've been working there for 12 years. And what I've seen over probably the last like 4 to 5 years is a steady increase of utilization of our services. We were talking about this before we came on the air too, that once the semester gets rolling, it's about a good 2 weeks before students can get an appointment with us.
Right.
And we have a steady stream. So every week, when we were meeting in person, every single week, we would get 5 new clients. Every single week from the beginning of the semester to almost the end of the semester. When we started moving to telemental health, is 3 a week. Every single week that we're getting, and they're coming, on a regular basis as well. So that stigma is beginning to decrease with our students. And so because we're so inundated, and we're on a college campus that has 10,000 students, and we have about 7 therapists full-time plus some interns. So you can do the math on the numbers. It's not going to be possible to meet with everybody.
Right.
So part of what we're implementing, which is a struggle at this particular phase in time, as our students are just coming into feeling comfortable with getting services, and a lot of them are having their first experience with therapy, is pushing students into getting group counseling.
Right.
And group counseling is the answer to handling and dealing with the high demand that we're experiencing, because you have on college campuses nationwide and at our university as well, the number 1 and 2 issues are anxiety and depression.
Right.
So, we could probably have multiple groups filled to the brim with 10, 12 students running concurrently if we had more students open to it. But there is understandable, because if you've been going through something for 18 years, you never spoke to anybody about it, and you're finally ready to talk, you're not trying to talk about that in the context of a group,
Right.
most likely. And then since for us, the anxiety and depression sometimes takes a back burner to relationship issues as our top issue.
Right.
So again, whether it's familial, peer, or romantic, so a lot of our students are dealing with trust issues as it is. So it's a struggle. But just as our services have increased over the last few years, I anticipate within the next 2 to 3 years that students are going to get much more comfortable with attending group counseling. So at FAMU, we don't have a session limit for the number of sessions a student can come and see us, right?
Right.
Which is different from, let's say, like an FSU. From last I heard, they pretty much, when a student comes in, they go to group therapy immediately. And they get only 6 sessions for the entire year, not per semester, for the entire year. So for us, we're accommodating students on a semesterly basis with individual services, and trying to do the best we can to supplement with the group counseling to meet the demand.
Man, as you're explaining, I'm thinking on a bigger scale. So you have the college campuses, but what about our brothers who are coming out of prison?
Right.
Right. And then needing that help coming out of that type of situation, out of that type of trauma. That's trauma. And then do we really have the support to help them, again, integrate back into society where they can, again, provide the most support and help to their families, friends, and community? This is so think about it. In a small context, we're having problems.
Right. Right.
But on a larger context, how do we really deal with this? This is more than just, okay, I had a bad day. Right. So I don't know. It's a lot that I think we need to start doing on the front end. When we talk about mental health, I'm thinking about the next generation, right? How do we start preparing our young men so that they don't have to have the issues that we have been having or having to confront at this point in time? What can we do with our elementary, middle school? You know, I still work with the K through 12 arena. Lisa, I know she's watching, so shout out to you. She said emotional intelligence. That's like one of the big buzzwords going around, especially coming out of COVID. One of my workshops is on emotional intelligence, having the kids who were home for a year, having now to come back and integrate with everybody else. Do you guys see? Now this is a great comparison. More and more people are flying now, and I know you've seen this, the fights and the issues that they're having on the airlines. I'm like, you know what? If they're having that on the airlines, imagine the schools when the kids come back to school.
What's going on? Yeah.
I was like, you know, what about work? The people who are at home, they kind of had a routine, they got into it. Now they got to go back to work in the cubicle.
Listen, I'm so glad they're going back. I'm so jealous that I've been having to work this entire time while they've been at the house. I'm glad that.
I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a challenge to our ability to adapt, and I think for many of us it was very difficult adapting to being at home, and then it's going to be difficult adapting to go back to being at work. So the key is just rolling with the day-to-day, and taking it little by little, and working towards, getting, habitual again, because that's the thing. It's uncomfortable for a while, and then it gets better, over time. But, that part is important. But, addressing the needs of what you talked about, the next generation.
Right.
There's a lot of steps to that process. For me, working with the college population is really all about that development of the next generation. The way I see it is, if we have young folks that become more emotionally intelligent, that are working through whatever type of mental health issues or just heavy stressors that they have in their lives, and they're getting in relationships with people and not causing harm, and supporting each other as best as they possibly can, then I think what happens is, when they really get ready to be in that serious long-term relationship that leads towards marriage, they're in a space where there's less likely to hurt each other. And they're more likely, right, to take the skills that they've learned through therapy and their process to be able to pass that on to their children. And then that creates a situation where you have a long-term change as far as how things go within those families. There was a study that was done some time ago that looked at something called adverse childhood experiences.
Yes, sir.
This was a super important study because they studied a very, very large population of people that wasn't just Caucasian. They had a mixture of various races and genders and whatnot. And what they found is that there were certain predictors for future issues like drug use, domestic violence, going to jail, things of that nature. And so some of those predictors was having a parent in a home that was incarcerated, seeing a parent experience domestic violence, a drug user in the home. And so what has happened and is happening in a lot of African-American communities and other communities, obviously, is that these experiences are happening in the home, therefore creating that generational cycle of these issues manifesting in the next generation. So the key becomes helping those folks that are experiencing that, change that experience and heal from those experiences as much as possible, so that they're not carrying that on, to the next generation. And so for me, a lot of times that's part of the work with the students in helping them to understand some of the issues that they're going through and problems that they're having, that in many cases, they are that person in the family that's breaking those cycles. And so I think that that's a major, deal in that process of creating that change cross generation.
You said earlier that I love, how can we Black women help the mental health wellness of Black men? Great question. Great question. Man, Lisa dropped the bomb on us. Lisa dropped the bomb. Let's how can you answer that? So, what you think, Mr. Prince? What do you think Black queens could do to help us with our own issues?
I think, well, first and foremost, I think a way that they can help. Number one, you have to be strategic in how you do it. If you bring it up in everyday normal conversation, and normalize it. I feel like that is the biggest key, normalizing it. Bringing up an everyday conversation, or let's say there's a book or something that you want to read that's related to mental health or wellness or anything of that sort, and hey babe, read this, and when we go on our next date night, we can discuss our thoughts on that, just to promote and so that it's not necessarily you coming at them like, look, you got a problem because you always yelling and you need to go see a therapist. No, we're not going to be receptive to that. So, you have to be very strategic, right. Normalize it. And, and I think that's one major way you can help Black women can help us as Black men with our mental, and, encouraging us to, and there's another thing that, because while we're taught, ingrained, grind. You got to work hard. You got to, which we absolutely do need to do. But we're not taught to balance that thing out. You also have to take time to take care of self. Self-care is very important. So modeling that and encouraging that, I feel like that also will be beneficial.
Funny you say that, because I see the trend is changing. Because again, it used to be the Black man, and it still is, carries the load. You got to, make sure you financially, physically, emotionally, you're the protector. But the trend is changing where the Black woman now is the forefront, the breadwinner for a lot of homes, right? So she's going out and she's having to deal with the stressors that the Black man used to have to deal with. And it's a different type of situation when it comes to the work dynamic between men and women, right? So she has to deal with that and then come home to, again, those same issues that husband is still trying to figure out.
It's true.
So it's a lot that's happening within our community, and we got to be, I like the word that you use, Cedric, strategic. So, read a book, talk to a counselor, talk to somebody, find some help. What I was thinking was, we got to help each other too. So we just can't depend on the, Black woman to help the Black man. The Black men have to help each other. Like our conversation right now has already been so fulfilling. And I'm hoping that, not only we're getting stuff out of it, but from our viewership, they're getting out, information out of here. I think what COVID has actually helped is to provide more access, right? I don't have to go into the clinic anymore. I could just set up a Zoom call and we could talk this out, right? And talk. One of my homeboys just stopped by my house today, and we just had a talk session. Like, look, this is what's going on. I got to get this out because I got to go back. I got to go back to the house. So, we still have to be there for each other, just as much as we want our queens to be there for us too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think, DK?
Yeah, I think Mr. Prince definitely hit the nail on the head. The strategy is important, but like you said, the normalizing of the issue that You know, it's just like anything else going on with your health. You know, if you have a sprained ankle, you need to go to the doctor, get it checked out. You know, if something's going on. And I think for a lot of Black women dealing with Black men, they get frustrated because of how we've been cultured to, you know, just, nah, I'm good, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Your eye got to be falling out your head to go to the doctor. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's very hard on Black women, including what you said, Mr. Moyes, as far as kind of already holding it down. You know, so it could be difficult. I think though, just doing the best, you know, that they can to continue to just encourage, express what they feel like they're seeing and they're experiencing, you know, as well as, you know, at a point a person has to do it themselves.
Yeah.
But I was told this by a professor a while ago, and at the time it didn't fully process, but over time it became more and more salient that women, and I think in our culture, especially Black women, are the gatekeepers for men to get health care.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So, you know, I think Black women have it down in a lot of ways, you know, with getting us to do what it is that we need to do at a certain point in time. And sometimes, you know, it takes the strategic, you know, coddling approach, and then sometimes it just takes that fiery, like, get your ass to the doctor.
I agree.
And that's what it's gonna be. You know, get in the car, let's go. And we driving. You know what I'm saying? Ain't much more discussion going on. And you know that, and you what you said, Mr. Moore, is very important. Is that we have to take we have to head that approach. We have to take on a responsibility in various ways with that process, so it doesn't, you know, make Black women feel like they have to be in the lead on that too.
Because again, we can't put all of the onus on them.
Correct.
Right? We have to take responsibility with each other and say, hey, you know, brother, I got you just as much as I know you got my back. Right. So yes, my queen is my power piece and I need that, but my brothers are there for me as well to support me through the process. And you know, I think too much we put the onus on our women too much. Like, it's all on you. No, we got I got to start. I know I need to go to the doctor. So I got to go to see the doctor. Or you know what? I'm having some problems, or we're having some problems. So we need to see somebody. We need to talk to somebody. And you know what? It might not be us. It's just me. And I got to recognize that and say, okay, I need to go talk to somebody so that we can be better. So, you know, I think again, it's that stance of what we have built in our DNA, and it's still there. And we have to find a way to root it out where we are built in the I gotta be quiet. I can't say nothing. You know the movie I was thinking of? It was The Butler. I wish JT was on here. He loves these movie things. But you know, as a servant, even in the White House, you know, they had to stay quiet. You can't say anything. You might be hurting, your feet hurting, your head hurting, arms, whatever. You just have to stay there and be quiet up until they told you had to go. It's the same mentality that they push in every other industry. The prison industry, boss, I need to go to the bathroom, right? Let me go to the bathroom. You gotta ask. I mean, as a Black man, you were silenced. And now, when you're out and you want to say something, you're saying everything you can. It's like, now I don't even know how to have, again, emotional intelligence. I don't even know how to have a proper conversation. I don't even know how to, you know, express myself. When it's time to cry, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to hold it. Or as you stated, Doc, I'm not going to do those check-ins. Right? I'm not going to go and talk to somebody to say, hey, here's how things are going. Right. You know, how often do you think as a Black man, how often do you think we need to really talk to somebody? Bar the depression, bar some of the, you know, bipolar, bar all of that. Like just hey,
basic.
How often, you know, they say you need to visit the doctor's office once a year at least, right, to get your checkups and all that. How often do you think we should be talking to a mental health provider?
It depends on what's going on. I think, you know, it could be between weekly to bi-weekly. But I think too, just the dialogue and discussion with other men, you know, that is important to happen on a regular basis.
Right.
You know, if that can be weekly, that's also good too, because again, that support is really important, you know, because you're going through the same type of thing in a lot of ways, and it becomes important just to have those conversations and those supports, you know, and it doesn't always have to be super serious and intense,
right?
You know, because the conversations can be about, you know, food, you know, diet. It could be about finances. It could be, you know, about something basic like cutting the grass, or, you know, how do you do something more efficiently than, you know, things of that nature. Because any little thing helps, you know, to lighten the load in whatever's going on in that person's life, you know.
Now, when you were saying that, I was thinking of the barbershop. You know, growing up, we used to go to the barbershop, and that's where the conversation, all of the men would come together, and we have these. I mean, even now, when I go to get my shout out to Fade's Barbershop, Adam Street. That's my spot. They take care of you, boy. But we have some real conversations. It could be about sports. A lot of times it's about politics and how things are going. We talk about finance. I agree with you. You know, it doesn't always have to be a heavy conversation. But we don't have too many of those safe places. Like, okay, you got the barbershop and you got the church. And if you don't have a good group of guys that you can call up, I did this and it was very helpful during COVID. Well, we're still in COVID, right? But we had Zoom happy hour. So my guys that, you know, if they're in Miami, DC, Philly, I had guys in England. We would all, you know, we didn't have that Tampa. We didn't have that sense of we're going to meet up this year, but we still met up online, and it was beautiful just to talk. You know how we do. We make jokes and we make fun of each other. We reminisce, and then we talk about, you know, the past, present, and the future. I think we need to continue to cultivate stuff like that. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, especially in forums like this, like you mentioned, the barbershops, playing ball. You know, a lot of times all that is therapeutic. You know, it doesn't substitute for therapy, but it's definitely therapeutic, and it gives you what you need, that outlet, that support system. And like you mentioned, even with the Zoom, you know, with the day and age that we're in now, you know, with FaceTime, Zoom, and video chat, you know, 10, 20 years ago, that was unheard of. So now, you know, you can actually link up with, you know, people that I went to college with or I grew up with, you know, even if you've moved to a different location where I don't really know anybody, I can still have that support system via Zoom. You know, we can meet up periodically, weekly, monthly, however often you need to. And that does need to be on a consistent weekly, bi-weekly basis. So that, and like Doc said, I keep calling him Doc, you know, so that, you know, because we can't really say how often you should go and see a mental health, because it's subjective. It all depends on
it depends
but
on
that therapeutic time, you know, with your boys, absolutely, it is so vital and necessary. So yes.
Matt, see, my fraternity, we meet once a month. And, you know, we're still talking about that. And it's funny because we talk about business when we meet. It's all business, but it's still so therapeutic. You know, you're talking to guys who are like from age 70, all the way up until about maybe 25, right? And just that range of wealth and range of camaraderie and brotherhood and love, it makes a difference. You know, so when I first joined, I was like, you know, but I really started to understand, even when we're just talking about business stuff, like what we're going to do, it has made an impact on my life. Just to, hey, I know once a month, I'm gonna meet up with my guys. We're going to have dinner together. We're going to talk business, and then we're going to talk our talk afterwards.
Of course.
Man, the time went by fast. It's already 10 o'clock.
Indeed it does.
So
Wow.
I was saying this when we started. I said, this is a big topic. You know,
Yes.
I know we were really talking about men's mental health, but you can't negate our culture, right? And not, you know, you can't just talk about the men without talking about everything else. We got to talk about our babies, our women, our relationships, work. It all ties into that mental health piece.
Mm-hmm.
Man, so final thoughts. What do you guys, think? What do you guys think that we could do? What we should be doing? And then I think we need to set up some type of men's forum at this point.
That'll be good. But I think, thinking about Taraji P. Henson's situation, and I would imagine she's somewhere in like, LA or something of that nature. I think it's about us as a people being connected with each other. Mm-hmm. And just like, you got a gardener, you got a plumber, you got an electrician, you have to have a therapist, you know what I'm saying, on cue, and so like for me, in Tallahassee, there's a bunch of competent African-American therapists, both men and women, that people can see, Now, of course, I'm a therapist, so I'm connected, right. But I think like in that situation, being able to have that network is really important, and being connected and asking around, but I think that the normalizing mental health therapy, part of what I do when I do presentations about the services we provide in the counseling center is I do a survey. And so what I do is I just tell everybody in the audience, I just want you to stand up if you or somebody you know, and that's the loophole, somebody you know, stand up if you've experienced this issue. And I'll go down a line: depression, anxiety, PTSD, sexual assault, drug, alcohol issues. And I hit them at the end with relationship issues. And I know everybody should stand up at that point. And I'll point people out like, you ain't standing up because you just don't want to. But at that point, I know I have 100% people. And every time I do have most of the room stand up, because these are just human issues that we all deal with. You know what I'm saying? Now, yes, sometimes those issues are impairing our ability to function more than others, and that's when it's more of a serious mental health issue. But they're normal, and I think the more we normalize it and we support those African American therapists that are doing it, is really important. You know what I'm saying? I think too, working out creative ways to be able to provide the service is important and can be, worked through, because oftentimes it's difficult if a person has a particular type of insurance, and the therapist only takes the insurance because, they've got to go through the hoops and all of that with the insurance companies, which, we all know insurance companies are about making money. Right. They don't actually care about the well-being of the person. And if that therapist doesn't take insurance, then you're looking at out-of-pocket costs, which is going from like on the very low end, $50 to $150. So it can be very difficult because you got the juxtaposition between the client, do they have the resource to pay for the service? Right. And the therapist like, I want to provide therapy, but can I make money doing it? Correct. Which we all got to live and survive, and private practice is a different kind of beast because you're dealing with having to have a certain amount of clients to get the money that you need, to pay for the practice, to pay you benefits and everything, and you only get paid when you're seeing the client. You don't get paid any other time.
Let me jump in right there, because you made a great point, and I think that's what we can't miss out on. Right, we're buying Fendi bags, Gucci this, Prada that.
Jordans.
You know, I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I used to tell my clients the same. Listen, you just paid, I don't know how much to get your hair done, and you're about to take this hair down, right? In a few days. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your mental. So let's start investing in that first. Right. And then that's going to put us in a better position to buy whatever else we need to buy. Maybe not even buy that stuff, because we have learned that stuff don't make us who we are. Correct. Right. So it's like, because I'm seeing a therapist currently, right? I'm in a relationship with seeing a therapist, and I love it. Having somebody to talk to and listen. Take the money.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
Because I say that because I've been in the same position as a massage therapist, right? I know I'm giving great work, and I know you need it, because you walking around here, you know, all type of stuff. So I know you need it. Pay the money. Let's stop giving it to people and things that are not helping us to be our best selves. I think that is going to really change. We're talking about the next generation, really right now, just changing that, I think will make a big impact in how we operate moving into the future. You don't need this sunglasses that are $300, $1,000, but you're not willing to pay a therapist who's going to help you mentally, right, and even physically, emotionally. Right. You know, $50, $75, $100. It's worth it.
Absolutely. I think you really said something when we're talking about normalizing it. Not only do we need to normalize, but like just you saying, I subscribe to this, I have this, and I love it. You know, we need more of that. You know, just that's a part of normalizing it, so that people know that, you know, people are actually doing this. People like me, people who look like me, are actually subscribing to this service, and it's beneficial and it's helping them. That'll absolutely help.
It's funny because I talked to several of my guy friends who are married, and that's what they've been telling me. You know what? We had to see a therapist. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, good for you. Good. Don't be afraid, right? Because that might really save your marriage.
Absolutely.
Because now you have somebody who you can talk to. You can be that person to kind of, you know, be the interpreter for you. Right? Because a lot of times it's communication. But we got to put the money in it. We buying all. What is this? This has been amazing. Thank you, Miss Evans. Miss Evans been on it all day, all night. Listen, we put our money in all type of stuff. Stop paying the cable bill. Listen. Stop paying
cell phone.
I mean, there's certain things we know you need to have, but you know, if you know you need help, why are you buying a $500 purse? It don't make no sense. And you know the pastor. Come on now, the pastor is great, but we could do better. We got the resources. So I know that I had to stop you, DK, because we try to use that as an excuse. Well, I don't have insurance or blah, blah, blah. But we got the resources. The other thing I think is that if you're going to go with insurance, America should pay for all Black Americans, all Black people, period.
At least.
Period. That's the very least American.
Minimum.
You paying for their mental health. You paying for their health care, period. Whether it's mental, physical, emotional, you're paying for their health care. After all that y'all have done.
Now you want something there. I'm with you when you're right.
I told Lisa, they keep telling me I need to run for president. I was like, if Joe Biden would have did that, come on now. We talking about how much help can we really get just knowing that it's free and I can go and talk to somebody to, again, we can't use that as an excuse. Right. Because we're spending our money on these other products. But we got to do better. We got to put it in ourselves too,
Correct.
Man, Prince, final thoughts.
Ooh, I feel like y'all covered it all, but absolutely, like you said, normalizing everything. I think also subscribing to that, not only just therapy but self-care. That's another thing that we struggle with. Self-care or prioritizing ourselves sometimes is considered or looked at as selfish. It's not. As one thing that I can say that was consistent as I matriculated through the social work program at FAMU, all of my professors made sure that they emphasized on self-care. Number one, because this is a hard program and this is a hard field to work in, and burnout is real. So you have to prioritize. You have to prioritize self-care and doing things that you need to do to promote your overall wellness. Not just your health. Because your mind, your body, everything is connected. When your mind is off, that impacts how you feel on a daily basis. When you don't sleep, that affects how you process and think. So yes, absolutely, just promoting therapy, normalizing everything, normalizing self-care. I think that'll definitely help with our community, with our Black men, as it relates to our mental health.
Listen, I told you I graduated from FAMU. At the time, I was going to FAMU and the Core Institute, which is the school of massage. They closed down, but I got to give them a shout out. I was also working at FAMU New Beginnings, and I was also substitute teaching.
Wow.
Oh,
listen,
right.
What got me through was the massage therapy because we were getting a session every night.
Nice.
But we had to give a session, but we also had to receive a session. So it was a lot of wellness being put into me, right? To gear me up for the next day. And I didn't think about that up until I left. Like, man, I really made it through my final years on campus and my final years with the school because I was getting I was self-caring. Our women do that, period.
Oh yeah.
It's getting their hair done, their nails done. Now they got the lashes.
And these expensive wigs.
The wig, the makeup, they make sure that they feel their best and look their best. But as men, we don't always do that, right? We may get a haircut. I go regularly. So my barber, I make an appointment. She know I'm coming. I think a lot of us don't do that. We go when we have a special event or something coming up. We don't go and get a massage. We don't go get a pedicure, manicure unless it's Father's Day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like one time out of the year. But we should be getting it every month. That's why I asked that question, DK. I wanted to know, how often? Because I subscribe to at least getting a massage once a month, getting your nails done, and they get them done every week, but at least once a month. So we got to take care of ourselves, man. I know we're going through a whole new kitchen talk, but I'm gonna have to bring you guys back because this is a really good piece. We got to get some other guys involved to have this conversation. I think this will take it to another level. Man, thank y'all for the time, for your energy, for your words of wisdom. I know JT has some technical difficulties, so we got to give him some positive energy.
Indeed.
And definitely Jamal, man, thank you for all your work, for putting up the information from everybody who has something to say. We want to thank all of our guests who showed up. This is our platform, Kitchen Talk CTC, Conversations That Cook. We meet every Thursday at 9 o'clock. please subscribe to our channel. We want to build this up. This is a great place to come and talk about some of the issues that we have. We are real broad in what we deal with on this show, but at the end of the day, it's always about how can we be better, right?
Correct.
So we want you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, go to our YouTube page, subscribe so that we can build that channel up. But more importantly, show us some support. You know, just as much as we talked about that today, we need your support so that we can push this content out as much as possible. So guys, till the next time, we got to set up another session.
Indeed.
This was beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Man, thank you for coming.
We appreciate it.
This was amazing, you guys.
Indeed.
We will have you guys back. We will have you back. Thank you guys for everybody who had a comment. Love you guys. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. Most importantly, be safe. Thank you, Jamal.
Have a good one.
Jamal's going to put us out. Then we're going to have our part 2 conversation.